PBS.
Less than a century ago, most of us lived in small towns. Now only 1 in 4 of us does. Monday night at 9, Oregon small towns invite you home to see how things have changed and how they've stayed the same.
I was born in a small town and I live in a small town. Every day in a small town, oh, small communities.
Hello, I'm Louis Rukeyser, inviting you to join me for the next edition of Wall Street Week, where my guest will be a leading investment advisor who insists that the troubles with stocks this year will soon be dim memories in a fired-up bull market. He's Jeffrey Applegate, the chief market strategist for Lehman Brothers, and we'll be asking them some very pointed questions. So be sure to point yourself our way.
That's tonight at 9 here on OPB.
Hi, I'm Chris Jussel, inviting you to the Antiques Roadshow,
You get the prize for the most lethal-looking artifact.
where people like you get to meet America's leading experts in antiques.
I never really had a teddy bear.
It's difficult to put a value on this because they are darn near one of a kind.
He made it while he was in the penitentiary for stealing chicken.
Join us for an exciting hour of discovery. That's the Antiques Roadshow from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Here on OPB, Monday night at 8. Imagine an OPB where you can always discover more, where you can find out all you want to know about nature, Oregon Field Guide, or Frontline with just the click of a screen. It's coming. OPB is going digital, and you can be a part of it. OPB's digital world of learning, because you're curious about the future, and so are we.
Less than a century ago, most of us lived in small towns. Now only 1 in 4 of us does. Monday night at 9, Oregon small towns invite you home to see how things have changed and how they've stayed the same.
I was born in a small town and I live in a small town. Every day in a small town, oh, small communities.
Funding for local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. The people of Union Bank of California, for more than 75 years providing Oregonians with banking, trust, and private financial expertise.
CNF. Not everyone understands supply chain management, but we do. We straighten out supply chains for leading companies worldwide. CNF, where supply meets demand.
Kink FM 102. True to the music in you.
Stock prices do the election limbo with wild mood swings sparked by the legal wrangling in the battle for the White House. The Dow drops 26 points. The NASDAQ index loses only about 5 points. Good evening, I'm Paul Kangas in Miami.
And I'm Susie Gerb in New York City. Venture capital isn't just for the big Silicon Valley money men. Now corporate America is moving in on the investment action. We'll tell you why. Also, just 37 days till Christmas, and Amazon.com is ramping up to deal with demand. My interview with Amazon Chairman Jeff Bezos coming up.
Nightly Business Report is brought to you by
Compaq. Technology solutions to help you achieve your inspirations for life and work. Inspiration technology from Compaq.
Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series. Investment products distributed by investment professionals. A.G. Edwards, going beyond stocks and bonds to help you plan for a more secure retirement. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. And is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company, providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news.
Good evening, everyone. A dramatic turnaround in the battle for the White House. Late today, the Florida Supreme Court blocked the certification of Florida's election results until it can hold further hearings on Monday. Then the federal appeals court in Atlanta refused a Republican bid to halt the hand count. The news came out after the market closed. Ahead of that, the Dow fell 26 points and the NASDAQ lost 5. Here's Darren Gersh with the latest on the election and how Wall Street might react on Monday.
The election, one trader said, is leading the market around by the nose. This morning, a clerk read Florida Circuit Judge Terry Lewis's ruling that the Secretary of State did her job when she refused to accept hand recounts.
It appears that the Secretary has exercised her reasoned judgment.
The Dow immediately surged 101 points.
I think mostly the market was expressing, my gosh, it's finally going to end by this, next Monday it'll be all over and done with.
But of course, this election is never that easy to call. The market gains quickly evaporated, and by this afternoon, the Florida Supreme Court ordered the Secretary of State not to certify the election results and announced it would hold a hearing Monday. Good news for the Vice President.
That's why I'm very pleased that the hand counts are continuing. They're proceeding despite efforts to obstruct them. And that is why the decision just announced by the Florida Supreme Court preventing the Florida Secretary of State from certifying the election results tomorrow is so important.
It was a stinging setback for the Bush campaign, but Lehman Brothers political analyst Kim Wallace says the Gore campaign still faces a high hurdle in Florida's highest court.
The biggest hurdle for the Gore camp is to prove to the Supreme Court, or to give the Supreme Court of Florida some reason to believe that the Circuit Court Judge, Judge Lewis, misinterpreted the laws of the state, or he was unaware of activity by the Secretary of State that might have changed his opinion.
Shortly after the Florida Supreme Court made its announcement, Miami-Dade County said it would begin a hand recount. Market analysts predict stocks will fall Monday morning as traders express their disappointment that all of this isn't over. Darren Gersh, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
The stock market began the day by moving slightly lower in a carryover of yesterday's downturn, which was caused largely by growing concern over slowing corporate earnings. At 10 a.m., however, the Dow was down only 10 points today and the NASDAQ off 12. Moments later, a brisk rally developed on that news that a Florida judge rejected the Democrats' petition to have hand recounted votes included in the election tally. At 10:30 a.m., the Dow jumped to a 71-point gain and the NASDAQ index was up 47 points. The market then quickly faded, just as hopes did for a resolution to the election stalemate when the Gore advisors indicated they would challenge the Florida judge's ruling. By noontime, the industrial average fell to a 76.5-point loss. The NASDAQ index was down 43.5 points. In afternoon trading, both the blue chip and NASDAQ markets staged a firming trend in defiance of the normal pre-weekend selling pressures. The Dow Jones Industrial Average trimmed its closing loss to only 26.16, putting it at 10,629.87. For the week, the Dow rose twice, fell 3 times, but it actually had a net gain of 26.92 points. The NASDAQ index today fell 4.69, ending at 3027.19, and the composite index rose twice and fell 3 times this week, had a net loss of a mere 1.80 points for the week. Volume on the big board moved over 1 billion shares, up nicely from yesterday, and about a 4-3 margin of down volume over up volume. The Dow Transport Index was up 4 1/3 points, nearly a 7.5-point rise in the Utility Index, and the closing tick just barely bullish at plus 204. Standard & Poor's 500 down over 4.5. The 100 managed to gain 0.91, almost a half-point rise in the mid-cap 400. The Bridge Futures Price Index had a substantial rise of 1.54. New York Stock Exchange Composite fell a little over 3 1/4 points, nearly a half-point gain in the value line, and the Russell 2000 Small Cap Index up nearly a point, while the broadly-based Wilshire 5000 was down about 60 2/3 points. The bond market gave back some of the gains it made earlier this week amid all of today's legal maneuvering and the election stalemate. And another slight negative was the report that October housing starts rose 0.1%, while building permits jumped a much stronger than expected 1.3%. Some weakness was also linked to a 33-cent per barrel rise in New York December oil futures. At the close, tax-free and corporates ended with losses of 1/8 to 1/4 point, and the Treasury market also had a moderate drop, 5/32 loss in the 5-year notes. The bellwether 10-year notes dropped 9/32 with the yield at 5.71%. 30-year bond down 17/32, and the Lehman Brothers long-term Treasury bond index saw 4.60. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Susie?
Paul, a warning today for e-tailers from the Federal Trade Commission. Follow through on your delivery promises this holiday season or else. That could mean big fines. That's what happened last year when many online e-tailers promised quickie deliveries but didn't come through. Well, I talked about this today with the chairman of Amazon.com, who was in Fernley, Nevada, checking up on his company's biggest distribution center. I asked Jeff Bezos what he expects in holiday sales.
We expect Q4 to be between about $950 million and $1.05 billion in sales. Since November 2nd, which is sort of the start of the holiday season for us, we've already taken orders for more than 7 million items. And that is, we've now put that on our website live so people can see it updated second by second.
Mr. Bezos, it looks like you're doing a lot of promotions, free shipping, discounts. Isn't that all going to cut into your profit margins?
Well, one of the things is the things that take good care of customers in the short term take care of shareholders in the long term. So, this is all part of our financial plan. We're very happy to be doing this promotion and hope to move some of the sales earlier so that everybody doesn't procrastinate. Although we're happy to take care of the procrastinators too.
Your core business, books, music, video, has been slowing down. What is your strategy for growth?
Well, we are really very focused on a few things. One is new product categories. So, we are a well-known place to buy books, music, video, DVDs, and that business continues to go very well. But we're also now becoming well-known as a place to buy electronics, tools, kitchen, toys. Our electronics business, our fastest growing business ever at Amazon.com.
So when is Amazon going to start making money?
In our U.S. books, music, and video business, we already are. For the business as a whole, we don't disclose that. We have some internal targets, but we're not talking about it externally.
A lot of companies have copied the successes of Amazon, and they've learned from your successes, whether they're upstarts or big companies like Walmart. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's a natural part of competition in an evolving world. What we do is we continuously innovate. So we work really hard to be better every day that goes by, every month that goes by, every year that goes by. We know more about e-commerce than other companies just because we've been doing it for longer. We have a very customer-obsessed culture inside the company, but we're doing a great job. That's the reason we have 25 million customers.
Mr. Bezos, let's talk a little bit about your stock. It's a long way off of its high of 113. What do you have to do to prove to investors to come back and invest in the stock again?
Well, I think a lot of people are invested in the stock. If you look over the short term, it's certainly true that we're way off our 52-week high. But if you look over the long term, over the last 3.5 years since when we became a publicly traded company, our stock is up roughly a factor of 20. We're very proud of the returns we've generated for shareholders. Very few companies can ever claim to have generated those kinds of returns for shareholders.
Mr. Bezos, thank you very much for talking to Nightly Business Report.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, this morning's volatility on Wall Street gave way to a little firming trend and a flat market by the close. Dow Industrial's down a little over 26 points, and for the week up nearly 27 points. Narrow movement overall. 15 stocks were higher for about every 13 lower today, so the broader market did all right. 82 new yearly highs as against 78 new lows. Nortel Networks topped the active list for the 4th consecutive day. Today, trading 40 million shares, stock down 38 cents. Bank of America says it thinks that Nortel is losing some of its business with Quest to Ciena. AT&T just got to 20 and stayed there, did not break through the $20 per share mark, but still down 69 cents. I believe that's a new low for the year. America Online was up 71 cents. Pfizer, a 31-cent loss. Compaq Computer dropped a half a dollar, fifth in big board volume. Lucent Technologies fell 50 cents as well. Citigroup dropping 31 cents. Medtronic off another $3.50 after a similar loss yesterday when J.P. Morgan Brokerage said it sees a slowdown in Medtronic's second half revenues and earnings. SBC Communications dropping a little over $2, hurt by Bell South. Lowered earnings expectations. We'll get to that in detail in a moment. General Electric down 75 cents, 10th in big board volume. Agilent Technologies up $5.75. On news, the company is going to sell its medical devices unit to Philips Electronics for $1.7 billion. Georgia Pacific off $2.63 could be in sympathy with International Paper, whose 2000 and 2001 earnings were cut yesterday by Bear Stearns. IBM was the biggest point gainer in the Dow today, doing well, up $3.69. JP Morgan, the biggest point loser, off $3.88. McKesson HBOC dropped $2.63 after the Morgan Stanley brokerage downgraded its rating from outperform to just neutral. And PPL, Pennsylvania Power and Light, it used to be called, up $1.94 today after Goldman Sachs added the stock to its recommended list. Brown and Sharp Manufacturing, the big percentage gainer of the day, up $1.75. The company's going to sell its metrology business to a Swedish firm for $160 million. Incidentally, metrology is the science of measurement. Barnes & Noble up $4.38. Yesterday was up over 2 on a smaller than expected 4-cent third quarter loss, a penny less than expected. Today, Merrill Lynch and Solomon Smith Barney both upgraded the stock. Titan Corp up $2.81. The company's SureBeam unit is expanding its inline electronic pasteurization system for IBP Corp, specifically IBP's Omaha Steak unit. And Rehab Care Group up another $3.94 after a similar gain yesterday on positive comments by Standard & Poor's. Crown Cork and Seal Company losing $2.19, big percentage drop. Bear Stearns notes the company could have problems with asbestos litigation. And there we see BellSouth off $7.13. Yesterday, the company cut its 2001 earnings growth estimate from 13% down to 7 to 9%. That came out after the close, and we did report it then. NASDAQ trading a loss of 469, and the index today for the week was off a mere 1.80, as you saw earlier. Trading volume up about 230 million shares from yesterday, and about 17 stocks higher for every 20 lower. Microsoft topped the active list, edging up 13 cents. Sun Microsystem gained $2.06. Cisco Systems up $1.69, but Juniper Networks moving down $7.44. JDS Uniphase up $1.88, fifth in NASDAQ dollar volume. Ariba fell $1.81. Broadcom off another $11.50. Yesterday it was weak on a Merrill Lynch downgrade from buy to accumulate. Intel moved up $1.50, and Oracle gained a similar amount, $1.44, and SDL rising $16.63. J. Baker Company up $2.13. Look at that percentage gain. The company is selling its footwear business for $60 million to Footstar Corporation, and it will then concentrate on its apparel sales. Casella Waste Systems getting some harsh treatment today, down $4.50 a share. Company says it's going to have only a break-even second quarter. The street was looking for earnings of 20 cents a share. And Broad-Based Software down $3.38. The company reported a fourth quarter loss today of 17 cents a share. The street was expecting a loss of only 7 cents a share. Over the American exchange, nearly a 9-point loss in the index. For the week, that index fell 14.13. Interlot Technologies up $1.50. Earlier in the week, the company had a really strong third quarter, 33 cents up from a penny last year, and revenues doubled. Could be a delayed reaction. Measurement Specialties down $1.25 on concern. The company may lose Sunbeam as a major customer. Sunbeam, of course, having its financial difficulties. And finally, the index shares all fractionally lower today. That's the Wall Street wrap-up. Susie?
Thanks, Paul. More and more corporations are trying to become venture capitalists. The goal is not only to earn some quick profits, but also to find some small entrepreneurial companies that might give them a competitive edge. Diane Estabrook has more.
So this is a folder where they can view where messages go.
Tech upstart Centerpost developed technology that lets consumers select where electronic messages are delivered, to email, pagers, and even phones.
This is a smart delivery message from Future Airlines.
It is technology Motorola may one day use in its own products, and that is why Motorola has invested millions in Centerpost. A growing number of companies are setting up corporate venture capital programs. Most are financing small firms that are developing products or technology that could benefit them in the future. In its first year in the venture capital market, Motorola has financed about 25 companies and continues to look at thousands more.
We look for a strategic fit with a particular business in Motorola before we'll make an investment. Now, more often than not, as we grow and as these startups grow in their life cycles, we'll identify additional strategic fits going forward.
Corporate venture capital dollars have been growing steadily, and this year will account for about 1/6 of all venture capital dollars. Small firms often receive financing from both traditional VCs and corporate VCs, but industry watchers say corporate venture capitalists often bring technological know-how and more to a deal.
Like they have a different set of contacts, maybe different accounting firms they know, different law firms they know. So they bring all of these different elements to the table.
For small cash-strapped companies, there can be a downside to corporate venture capital. Since corporations have to watch the bottom line, they may be less patient if the small firms they're funding don't meet performance or profit targets. Tribune Ventures, the VC arm of the Tribune Corporation, admits it has pruned some investments from its portfolio.
If you don't see a situation where a good idea, what we perceive as a good idea, cannot get funded through to fruition, you have to cut the cord, and you know that has unfortunate consequences, obviously, for us, because we have to write it off.
In the long run, though, industry watchers say the intellectual property and experience corporate VCs bring to small firms can actually improve the small firm's chances for success. Diane Estabrook, Nightly Business Report, Chicago.
Monday, we begin a three-part series, Preparing for College, with answers on choosing the right school.
Coming up next week on Thursday, a special Thanksgiving Day program, How to Find the Right College and Pay for It. Our Friday Market Monitor is Bernie Schaefer, chairman of Schaefer's Investments Research. In our Bridge News Watch, Monday, Fed Chairman Greenspan talks tech at a meeting in Washington on women in housing and finance. Tuesday, it's trade numbers, and Thursday, the markets will be closed. It's Thanksgiving Day.
My guest market monitor this week is Robert S. Robbins, Chief Market Strategist for the Robinson Humphrey Brokerage based in Atlanta. And welcome to Nightly Business Report. Bob?
Hi, Paul. Great to be here.
Let's cut right to the chase and get your view on what kind of a stock market we're dealing with here. Is it a bull, is it a bear, or is it some kind of a hybrid?
It's a Super Bowl. I think this market's going straight up to all-time highs by year end, and I think we're going to continue the same 16% compound annual growth rate over the next 5 years that we've had over the last 18.
What makes you so bullish?
That would mean the stock market would double over the next 5 years. I am super bullish because right now you've got the Fed that stopped hiking rates and inflation pressure is easing. You've just been through the worst seasonal period of the year because of tax loss selling. You're now going to anticipate the new funds flows that come in with the New Year's IRAs and pension accounts. You've got the uplift of moods with the holiday season coming from Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas, and New Year's resolutions.
Everybody's talking about, however, the slowdown in corporate earnings. Doesn't that matter?
You know, it's amazing. It's really important to understand that robust earnings growth is very negative to the stock market because it brings with it inflation, which is worse than anything else. So you've got to look at that, and that's why the market was down in the first 10 months of the year. With that inflation worry going away and earnings coming down to a healthy but not robust growth rate, you have the best of both worlds. Just like in 1995, when the stock market went up 34%, we could do that over the next year.
Do you think the next move by the Fed might be to lower rates?
I do, but I don't think we need that to rally sharply through year end. Just the continuing perception that inflation pressure is less, and that we're moving towards a neutral bias sometime in the next couple or three Fed meetings, followed by maybe mid-year next year, roughly, a cut.
So before we get into your strategy, and this question has been asked a million times recently, but it doesn't mean we don't want your answer. Namely, what's best for the market, a Bush or a Gore presidential victory?
I think Bush is a little better because most investors pay some pretty high taxes, and Bush would cut and reverse that tax hike that we had that lifted rates from 33 to 39%. Getting back to 33 would help. Also, I think investors tend to prefer a little less tax and spend overall.
Mm-hmm. All right, what are your allocations percentage-wise with respect to stock, bond, and cash holdings right now?
Very, very heavily in stocks. I have only 15% in bonds, the practical minimum of 5% in cash and 80% in stocks, essentially reversing what we did a year ago, favoring a very hefty weighting in bonds, fearing that this inflation worry would hurt the stock market more than it would hurt the bond market.
All right, let's get specific. What kind of stocks are you holding here and buying, for that matter?
I think the finance sector now is absolutely the best place to be. There you've got the banks, the thrifts or S&Ls, the insurance companies, the financial services companies, and the investment broker-dealer companies.
Can we get specific?
Sure. In the insurance area, Jefferson Pilot. Insurance companies benefit from annuities. In this case, they're a play on this Super Bowl move that I'm expecting ahead. National Commerce Bank Corp is a regional bank, should benefit from interest rates being in control. That's their cost of funds, and less worry about the old inflation recession cycle, so their loans will be good.
Let's move into some other areas. We only have about a minute left, Bob.
Fine. Equifax in a hybrid area of services, sensitive to finance and a little bit of technology. That's a credit card reporting and processing company.
Okay.
Cerner Healthcare, I'd be very heavily overweighted in healthcare, just like finance. Cerner's a hospital services information software company. Technology, be very selective here. Technology may underperform, typically outperforms in a big market move up.
Okay.
But being selective, a turnaround, Qualcomm.
Qualcomm. All right, so you're not afraid of these stocks that have been hit badly. You think they're bargains?
Well, I'm afraid of the ones that are going straight down. Qualcomm's done that, but built a big base and is turning up.
All right, interesting. So heavily weighted in stocks and new highs by the end of the year?
Yes, new highs, straight up. Would not be unusual.
It's going to be a wonderful Santa Claus rally.
I think so.
Thanks very much, Bob.
Thank you.
My guest, Robert S. Robbins, Chief Market Strategist for Robinson Humphrey.
Recapping today's market action, a standstill. The Dow lost 26 points and the NASDAQ slipped about 5. And please join us at our worldwide website, mbr.com. And finally, some good news. A new survey says that the cost of Thanksgiving dinner is going down. A dinner for 10 people will cost $32.37. That's down roughly $1.50 from last year. It works out to $12.50 for a 16-pound turkey. That's down about $1.70 from last year. A gallon of milk, $2.56, down 39 cents. A package of fresh cranberries at $1.54, down 16 cents. And can't forget the pumpkin pie mix, down 7 cents. And Paul, this is the first time since 1991 that this group has been doing the survey that the price of Thanksgiving dinner has dropped.
Only a 16-pound turkey for 10 people? I mean, that means just left-unders.
Yeah, no leftovers. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it, but I'm not doing the cooking this year, so I don't have to worry about the pocketbook issues. That's Nightly Business Report for Friday, November 17th. I'm Susie Garib. Have a good evening, everyone, and have a great weekend to you, Paul.
And the same to you, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news. And is made possible by A.G. Edwards, going beyond stocks and bonds to help you plan for a more secure retirement. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals.
Compact. Technology solutions to help you achieve your inspirations for life and work. Inspiration technology from Compaq.
And by the financial support of viewers like you. Introduce someone to the basics of stocks and mutual funds with the NBR Video Library. Paul Kangas hosts this award-winning set of free videotapes for beginning investors. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.
Funding for local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. The people of Union Bank of California, for more than 75 years providing Oregonians with banking, trust, and private financial expertise.
CNF. Not everyone understands supply chain management, but we do. We straighten out supply chains for leading companies worldwide. CNF, where supply meets demand.
Kink FM 102. True to the music. The music in you.
Hello, I'm Louis Rukeyser, inviting you to join me for the next edition of Wall Street Week, where my guest will be a leading investment advisor who insists that the troubles with stocks this year will soon be dim memories in a fired-up bull market. He's Jeffrey Applegate, the chief market strategist for Lehman Brothers, and we'll be asking them some very pointed questions. So be sure to point yourself our way.
That's tonight at 9 here on OPB.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Pond, and as the year comes to a close, I would like to encourage you to consider the benefits of making a stock transfer gift to OPB. Supporting the great programming you find every day here on OPB can be as simple as one phone call to your stockbroker. And if you've held the stock for more than a year, you can bypass the capital gains tax and claim the full fair market value of the security as an income tax deduction. For more information about making a gift of stock, call OPB at 503-293-1901. And thank you very much.
Welcome to OPB Store of Knowledge, your portal to a world of lifelong learning. The gateway begins at Clackamas Town Center and Washington Square, online at storeofknowledge.com.
Less than a century ago, most of us lived in small towns. Now only 1 in 4 of us does. Monday night at 9, Oregon Small Towns invite you home to see how things have changed and how they've stayed the same.
I was born in a small town.